Hi, everyone. Welcome to A New View. I'm Kim, and I'm here with Lee, Shira, and Zsuzsi. We are four friends, speakers, and professionals from different cultures, backgrounds, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. We are continuing our amazing conversation today with Michelle, who guides and mentors people on their spiritual journey over many past lives. She is a spiritual development life coach who specializes in past life regression. Michelle, we really enjoyed learning about your journey in this powerful healing work that you do. And you recently had a session with Zsuzsi, and we are so curious to hear how that went. So Zsuzsi, do you want to start and share what that experience was like for you?
Talk, sister.
So first of all, I just want to address something that you said, Michelle, in the first conversation, which is that the best compliment you've gotten is that you're brutally honest. Because what I feel is true for anybody who's in this work is that sometimes you are the medium or the catalyst for people realizing some really hard truth. And what makes somebody a good practitioner in this type of work is somebody who can deliver that hard truth with compassion, with understanding, and in a gentle enough way that people have real breakthroughs. And I feel that you are that person. So thank you for that session, which was incredible. And one of the things that I came to you with is that I saw a pattern evolving in relationships. And I started telling you about this pattern and pointing outwards. And you're the one that said, no, 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 let's turn it back around on you. You're not here to try and figure out where those men are coming from. You're here to figure out what's going on within you. And that's what we're really here to do. And even just talking to you about that without a regression, without understanding the deep spiritual root of those patterns, I was already starting to come to some clarity about what it was that I was here to really look at and work on. And it gave me like a starting point, right? And so then we have this past life regression, and it has almost nothing to do with this pattern breaking that I'm trying to address, but it does bring to light something so important. And I feel like I have discovered through doing my own spiritual work and through my own journey that there are themes that emerge for me about like what I need to work on. And it feels true that last year I was really working on like rooting out a lot of vanity and trying to move forward in life without that. And this year feels like it's about rooting out resentment. And I didn't even know I was resentful. That's the crazy thing. It was so deep in there that when it started bubbling up, I was shocked. I was like, but I'm such a happy-go-lucky person. I didn't realize I was being resentful. And so what I realized I was being in this case resentful about was being in a tough spot. We've all been in this tough spot for the last year plus with COVID, with, you know, like you were saying, there are crossroads that you come to in life where you just feel stuck. And I felt really resentful about it. And I've come away from my session with you feeling that much more joy is available to me than I really realized, and to just savor the little things about life and find gratitude for those small things that I just sort of brushed aside. And I like it was 2 days ago. So like talk to me in a week about how much I've gotten from the session, because I know there will be a lot more. But I just want to say thank you, because it really was, I can tell already that it was a huge shift inside of me.
Thank you for saying that. And also too, I just want to say that it's always a really great privilege for me to work with somebody who's done so much work on themselves already. And you really have, you tackle things like head on, and you're not afraid to kind of go to those like deep places. And you see that that kind of healing is available to you if you're willing to kind of have the courage to take that journey. So I felt it's a privilege and honor to have been in that space with you, truly.
Thank
So
can we hear a little bit more about what
did you tell
happened?
them who you were in a past life? Because
Sure.
are you a man or a woman?
I'm a man.
How old are you?
Older, like 40s, which was old back then.
Are you indoors or outdoors?
I'm outdoors.
What place are you in?
I'm like at a seaport. There's like ships getting packed up with stuff.
What kind of items are being packed on the ship?
I just see lots of crates.
Are they large ships, smaller ships?
They're large ships, and it feels like I'm in charge of them.
Where will these ships sail to?
It feels like they're going to America.
Where is this seaport? Comes to mind when I ask what city or town or country you're in.
I don't know why, but it feels like Europe, and then it feels like Spain.
Do you feel that whatever's packed onto this ship will end up in America?
Yeah, but the ships didn't start in Spain.
Where did they start?
England. So it was the 1700s, and I was male. I was a man. And I was a ship captain, setting sail to the Americas, where my wife and child were waiting for me. And I was the one who was responsible for everybody on this ship. And something that I've been struggling with recently is feeling responsible for other people's healing journey. And I felt the weight of that responsibility with like hundreds of people's lives in my hands, but also this duality of it's not really up to me if we cross this ocean. I have the skill. I have the skill to steer the ship. I have the know-how of how the moving parts of this crew and everything works. But, you know, the weather is a factor I can't control. The ocean is a factor I can't control. You know, there's all, and the behavior of this crew I can't really control. So it really isn't technically up to me, even though I am responsible as the guide for this ship across the ocean. And feeling super neutral about that. Like it's in God's hands anyway. You know, it was a much more religious time in history where people really did just have that attitude of, it's not up to me. There is a higher power at work here, and I am starting to really understand that about the journey that I'm on. It's not up to me. I can guide people into work who ask for it, but it's really up to them and their destiny to get them there. And that's a huge relief. Whew.
But Zsuzsi, when you're doing it, do you actually feel like the person that your past life is showing up? Like, do you feel like that person?
You do. I mean, the embodiment of it is very floaty because you're not technically in that person's body. It's a memory that you're having, as Michelle pointed out afterwards. But something cool that Michelle did at the end was you see the last day of your life. So you sort of get this experience of leaving that life, and then you can talk to your spirit about what it was that they wanted to show you through this, because it's not like your choice. You're not like, I'm coming here to see a past life about this. It's whatever they feel is of the greatest and highest good for you to see. And when you talk to the spirit of who was in that body, in that life, which is yours, you get to understand, like, this is what I wanted you to see through this lens of this incarnation in this life.
What was the lesson you learned from living that life that's most important for you to know in your life right now? Why did you remember this? What do you need to know?
The value of emotionality.
You feel that you were meant to experience a life where that was difficult in order to understand how important it is to have it?
Yeah, not be resentful of emotions.
You feel there was something blocking that man from expressing his emotions?
No, that level of consciousness just wasn't available. And this consciousness is a gift.
It was important that you see that was a different level at that time.
Mm-hmm. And what I was meant to see is not just that responsibility factor in a sense, but also, that was a much colder time in history, in the sense that people just did their duty. They, I was a captain of a ship. I got my crew across the ocean. I had a wife. I don't remember feeling particularly warm and fuzzy about that. It was very matter of fact.
I asked you about your wife and you were kind of like, she's okay.
You didn't have like movie nights and Taco Tuesdays and stuff? Like that kind of cult?
Yeah, just like that feeling of like, yes, you have responsibility and certain things are kind of out of your control, but yet you kind of also were stuck in this going through the motions of life and just kind of living on a certain level without, and even like your child, you were like, yeah, I'm slightly more joyful about my child than I am about my wife. But, to kind of like notice that was, it was about survival.
Mm-hmm.
And today it's not. Did it surprise you that you were a man? I want to speak to what you said really quickly. The way that I work with my technique is that I always leave it up to spirit, what they're going to show you. So they are past life memories, but they also are going to come from your guides. So your guides are going to show you the past life that's most relevant, that's most related. And like you mentioned, it might not be what you would have predicted or thought, but it's always exactly what you needed at that moment. It's also how this stays safe. So if the worst thing that's ever happened to you in the history of all humanity is what came up, right? Like there's a lot of like trauma and tragedy and that kind of thing. So leaving it up to spirit, it's always exactly what you need in your life at that moment.
Mm.
So
and while this is happening, I'm curious, Zsuzsi, were you in a trance? Are you feeling like you're hypnotized and you wake up from it and then recall all these things? Or is it kind of live?
So Michelle takes me through well, first of all, her voice is so hypnotizing. It's very soft, and it starts kind of as like a closed eye meditation, and then starting to visualize things.
Good. Closing your eyes, taking a deep breath in through your nose, releasing it out your mouth. You're breathing in this beautiful light. It's a white light, it sparkles. This light is infused with a sense of peace. Bringing this into your body on your breath, letting it fill you. And on each exhale, you're releasing any worry or fear, stress. Releasing this from your body and your breath. Replacing it with this light. Good, and now there's another light. This light is moving in through the top of your head, through your crown. Perhaps you can feel a tingling or a warm sensation as it connects to you. Immediately you notice in this light, divine, loving presence, peaceful presence. You'll also notice that this light is an infinite strand. There's no beginning, no end. This beautiful strand of light. In it is everything that is, everything that has been, everything that will be or will possibly be.
I'm very easily hypnotized, and so for me it was very easy to fall into this trance, and I am very visual, so I can describe a scene very vividly. So she's talking to me the whole time, and I'm talking to her the whole time about what I'm seeing. So we visited a childhood memory first, which was really cool. That was almost unrelated, but really interesting, because I went back to when we first moved back to Hungary as a child, and my mom got us a puppy, a little Vizsla puppy, and I was just like, for sure that this dog was going to be my best friend, and the dog and I didn't really click. And that was like a devastating realization for me very early on. And my mom really clicked with the dog.
One, be there. You're through the door. This is a scene that's a memory from your childhood. In your mind's eye, I'd like you to look down at your feet and tell me if you're wearing shoes.
Mm-mm.
Your feet are bare?
Mm-hmm.
Look up your body. What kind of clothing do you have on?
Pink.
You're wearing something pink.
Mm-hmm.
How old are you?
7 or 8.
And are you indoors or outdoors?
Outdoors.
What place are you in?
Our house in Hungary, in the backyard.
What time of day is it?
Afternoon.
And what's the weather like?
It's early summer.
So it's a little bit warm out.
Mm-hmm.
What is it that you're doing in the backyard?
My brothers and I are playing. We just got a puppy.
What was the puppy's name?
Fanny.
What kind of mood are you in as you and your brothers play with the puppy?
So happy. So excited.
What was it that you liked about the puppy?
That I finally got it.
This is something you'd been wanting for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. What kind of dog was it?
A Vizsla,
What color was it?
red.
Do you feel your brothers are also happy and excited?
No, I'm the excited one. They're playing together. So she and this dog had this like deep, loving relationship with one another. And I kind of felt left out of that, like not in a consciously hurting the dog kind of way, just kind of like, oh, that's not my dog. That's not
Like,
that's not
my
the,
soulmate's arriving today. And then the dog was like, and you're like, wait, that's not what it was supposed to be. It was supposed to be, we love each other instantly. And, you know, I think that that was an interesting bookend on your past life experience, being about emotion, being open with your emotion. And, you know, you said at the end of that regression that you said that the lesson was about the value of emotionality. When we, you know, because I say, what was the lesson you learned from living that life that's most important for you to know in your life right now? Where you said, where you're asking yourself on a soul level. And then you said not to be resentful of emotions. So the puppy thing is an interesting kind of bookend, you know, to that, like how to connect with people emotionally. And sometimes it's not what you expect, right? Sometimes it just is what it is. But yeah, you were like 7 or 8, I think.
yeah, uh-huh.
And Michelle, are you seeing the same thing at the same time that Zsuzsi is?
Yeah, so that is one of my gifts as an intuitive. Once I do connect, like basically while she's relaxing, and like she said with the closed eye meditation, I'm connecting energetically to her, and then we're opening a channel, a space to communicate with spirit. So I'm basically just holding that space for her. I'm just letting her borrow my channel, which is only bigger than anyone else's because I do this for a living and I've studied it. But once I open that channel, I'm actually seeing what she's seeing enough to guide her. So that's one of my gifts as an intuitive. So
I think that is fascinating to me because, as you guys know, I had a session with Michelle a few years ago, and I'll never forget what I was seeing. And when the session was over, she was pointing, well, you know, she'd say things like, well, I'm pretty sure it was, you know, the 1950s because those brown pants he was wearing, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I remember just being so taken back by that. And you referenced a lot of different things, especially like this huge ending and what me in this past life did to like release like you were just so specific. And I'm so fascinated that it works like that you can physically see what we're seeing.
yeah. When I was a child, and we talked about this in part 1, when I was a child, I used to sometimes look at people and their faces would shift and change into different genders, ethnicities, like, and I'm like, whoa, what is that? I could do it with myself also too in a mirror. So I've always kind of been able to see people. I think I've always just been able to see people's past lives, like in them. But yeah, it's, it's, you know, it's strange. It's actually something, you know, that in shamanic practices, right? Like you do mirror work to try to see, you know, am I really me? Is this my body? The answer is no, right? So that is something I've always done, but it's a matter of like training myself to really do it in that context and really use my intuitive abilities as a clairvoyant to help be a better guide through people's past lives, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you know, something, Shira, you mentioned when you were asking Zsuzsi, you know, about her feeling like she was this person or how that played out for her. For me, and Zsuzsi, tell me if you relate, like to me, it felt like I was watching a movie play. I was actually, it felt like that. I mean, I was definitely felt like I was sort of under a little sort of hypnosis trance, sort of not the most conscious, but it felt like I was watching a movie. That's kind of how it, I don't know, Zsuzsi, did you feel that way or?
I definitely felt like I was seeing through somebody else's eyes. You know, it wasn't necessarily a movie. It was more that I was transported into this very different kind of scene. Um, when I first arrived, Michelle had me look at my feet to see like what if I was barefoot, was I wearing shoes? And then I looked up and I was like, oh, I'm at a port. People are putting cargo onto a ship. I could see that very vividly through my eyes. And then I just had this inner knowing that I was in charge and that, you know, they were packing up my ship that was going to cross.
She brings up a really interesting point because it is different for everybody. Some people are very clairvoyant, like you are, Kim, like that it seems like a movie, that there's images coming. Some people are more kind of what's called claircognizant, clairsentient, where you kind of feel it in your body, you sense, you feel, know. You know, we have 5 senses. We also have 5 inner senses. So a passive regression, you know, can be, some people are more visual, some people are more sense and feel. And I think that you're probably more of a clairvoyant where she could feel it right in her body. So it's different sometimes when people do it once with me, they might be more clairvoyant, and the second time they might be feeling it more. So it can change even within the person, how you experience it. As we become better friends with our unconscious mind, right? We learn how to navigate it. But looking down at your feet first, that technique is called grounding, because most people can actually be floating above it or see yourself. So it tries to get you in that perspective that she described, where you're looking out the person's eyes.
I just had a question pop into my head that I don't know if there's an actual answer for it, but like Zsuzsi was saying, you know, I'm pretty open to being hypnotized, like I'm easily hypnotizable. So I guess my question for people out there who are like skeptical but curious, and like, are there things that people can do to get them more open to, like, if they are curious about it, but they're like, I don't really think I could. Is there something they can do to prepare them better?
Yeah, that's a fabulous question. Most people are worried they can't do it, you know, and I've never had anybody not be able to, because, you know, your job is to relax and be open-minded. Those are the 2 things I require. You don't have to even believe in past lives. You just have to be open to, like, you know, what comes. And this is different for different people. Obviously, different people have different capacities to relax. When I work with people who are more creative people, right? Like they're more kind of like the right brain versus the left brain people. Actors are easier. You know, it's like, imagine you're someone else, go. You know, that's something that's available to them. But, you know, I do work with people who, to this date, my most difficult client, he was a professor of engineering at MIT. And so he had a really hard time. I'm like, imagine a light. And he's like, well, I can't. If there is no light, how can I? And I was just like, I finally was like, okay, fine. If there were a light, what color would it be? He's like, well, I guess my light would be yellow. I'm like, great. That opening for him, he just decided to just be like, okay, screw it. Let's just see what happens. So, you know, I do work with a lot of New Yorkers also too. I mean, before, I've been doing Zoom sessions since 2015, but before that, most of my clients were New Yorkers, which we're kind of known to be a little more tightly wound than some other people, right? So, you know, like I said, it's literally just a matter of deciding to just be open-minded and trust, which is why the way that I hold space for people is so important. The way that I navigate that is by being trustworthy, right? Like that's super important. And actually one time my teacher, Brian Weiss, told me, he's like, what makes you good at this is that you're that girl that people would have coffee with and tell her everything anyway. And it's kind of true. It's kind of just that girl I've always been. Did that answer your question? I mean, as far as what people could do to prepare, it's maybe just, I don't like to give people stuff to prepare because that sometimes makes them think too much or get into their head. Like, did I sleep enough last night? Did I have too much coffee? People are like, should I take my ADHD medicine? I'm like, yes, you know, it's all good, right? Like, so hypnosis is relaxing and focusing So avid meditators do better, but if you've never meditated before, I don't want you to sit there and drive yourself crazy meditating the night before you do a passive regression. Your job is to relax and trust me and be open-minded, and that's it. That's all I require.
Somebody's like even contacting you to do it. There's like a grain of curiosity there anyway. So there's some level of openness. Some people are super open. Some people are like, right?
They're scared that it's like an achievement. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you are. If you just allow yourself to be open-minded and like I said, it's a matter of shifting your thinking a little bit.
And I mean, your voice is so relaxing. Like I said, there's like no way. I mean, has anyone ever fallen asleep?
My best friend uses my meditation CD to fall asleep at night.
There you go.
Voice
Like, I'm gonna not be offended by that. And it's interesting because I think that we're always being groomed for our own future. And it's funny because my background before I started doing this is I used to be a musician professionally. I have a college degree in violin performance, and I also was a singer for years. So what you're talking about my hypnosis voice, that's like based on a lot of my like vocal training and my performance background and all of that. So yeah, I have like a musical hypnosis voice, but I was trained for 23 years doing that before I started doing past life regression. So
cool.
That's so interesting too, only because I always viewed musicians and music, any type of music, and that particular art to be so meditative.
Yeah.
Because when you're in the zone and you're so just focused and your brain can't go anywhere else, you're just playing the music, you're singing, you're playing an instrument, whatever it is. I just always look at that as the most meditative career.
It is. And, a lot of people, particularly stringed instruments, all instruments involve vibration, but the violin just being right under the chin and creating this vibration, they say, I've had a few people tell me that it's the closest you can get to the realm of spirit physically, kind of do. And I think that that's what drew me to it. I was like, this feels like that vibration that is like, transcendental. Yeah, I see them as completely related. So, and like my training's been going on for many lifetimes and in this life too, right? So
I would actually love to share, because I had a session with you, like I mentioned earlier, a few years ago. And, I never really told you fully how impactful that session, how powerful that was for me. And, at the time, just to share with everyone who's listening, I was struggling with this pattern of just struggling financially. And I noticed it was a pattern. It was like I was either doing really well and saving a lot of money, or it would I'd be in debt and I'd have trouble paying it off, or I'd be up and down. And it was this pattern for honestly my whole life, my whole adult life. And I just was at a point where I became an entrepreneur and I was building this business, and then boom, here's this pattern again showing up in my life. And I felt so stuck with the money situation. And then I came to see you. I remember talking for quite a while about it and why I was there. And you asked me a lot of really good questions. And then we delved into the work. We had this incredible session. And what came up for me was this past life. It was a man who actually, I remember he looked like my grandfather, but he was not my grandfather. But I remember just being like, is that my grandfather? It looks like him. And he, long story short is he lost his job and lost his wife and kind of lost everything, eventually got evicted from his apartment, really thought he could just get another job and pay the bills and everything would be okay. And it wasn't okay. He couldn't find another job. And long story short is he ended up dying on a park bench all alone, starved to death, freezing. And I just remember sobbing, just even the thought of it now is just getting me emotional, because I just remember feeling so sad for this man. That's just such a sad way to die. And the message that came through in the end through you, what it wanted to show me and tell me was to ask for help. And that was the huge, profound message. And at the time I was building a business and doing everything alone, because that's my pattern, and I don't tend to ask for help. I tend to just want to fix everything and be everything for everybody and, do everything myself and not bother anybody. And I just remember saying to you through tears, like, they're saying to ask for help. That's the message. And my life just shifted so much after that session. I mean, I'm so abundant today. Any debt I had is gone. I'm saving for it to buy a house now. And it's like, it was so impactful and profound, and like, I'll never forget it, and it's so interesting. We're sitting here talking about like just patterns, because just this week, I realized I'm dealing with another pattern, a totally different pattern. And inside I'm like, I'm making an appointment with you like today, because I really want to work towards all these patterns I have. I want to break the patterns. So anyway, I want to say thank you to Michelle, because you've changed my life for the better. And I'm so glad that we're sharing this information with people today. It's so important. It could change so many lives.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And that brings me to tears too, because, it's the answers are within us, right? We just need to know where to find them. And again, you're also somebody who tackles work on yourself so mindfully, right? And you just have this generous spirit. And when you do ask for help, you can actually do more, right? You can be of better service to people. So no, thank you. Honestly, it's so moving. It's so moving. I love it.
I think that's a great place to wrap it up. What do you guys think?
Yes, I'm also emotional.
Yeah, that was great. And Zsuzsi, thank you for sharing some of your session with us.
Thank you, Michelle. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for allowing me to just share so much about this work that I love so much, that I really appreciate you guys being just so willing to not only have me on, but share your own personal experiences. You guys are all so beautiful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you,
so
Michelle.
much. Thank you. Well, we are beyond grateful to have spent that time with Michelle. And we hope that you've enjoyed this conversation as much as we have. Definitely check out her links below. We'll have her website and her social media and everything to learn about her and contact her below in the description. And if you enjoyed our show and keep enjoying our show, please click like and subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tell a friend and spread the word. We'd also love if you have any comments or questions, or if you want to suggest a topic that you'd like to request, we'd absolutely love that. So we'll see you soon, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Stay safe.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.